You feel it in quiet moments, a kind of discontent, not loud, not urgent, but persistent, like a low hum beneath everything you do. You scroll, you compare, you question. Why am I still stuck? Why am I still shaken so easily? And though no one says it out loud, many live in silent defeat, not because they're weak, but because they've never been taught how to suffer well. We were never trained to deal with betrayal, uncertainty, loss, or even success. And in this vacuum of preparation, we crumble. But centuries ago, the Stoics, men like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, wrote maps for navigating chaos. They didn't just survive life's storms, they thrived in them. What they offered wasn't comfort, it was clarity. And it's that clarity we begin with now. Let's talk about control. Law 1: master what you can control, relinquish the rest. You've likely heard this before. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote this not from an ivory tower, but while waging war and governing a crumbling empire. That line wasn't a poetic abstraction, it was survival strategy. The foundation of Stoicism is this: control is the measure of peace. When you attempt to dominate what you cannot command, other people's opinions, the weather, fate, your past, you hand over your inner stability. But when you return to your own reasoned choices, your disciplined responses, your values, you come home to power. Modern psychology aligns with this. Cognitive behavioral therapy, often called modern Stoicism, begins with separating facts from interpretation. You don't control your intrusive thoughts, but you do control whether you engage them. You don't control how someone treats you, but you do control how you define yourself afterward. Take Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. In the concentration camps, he lost his family, his freedom, his status, but what he never surrendered was his attitude. He famously wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." That's not just Stoicism. That's proof that control of the mind is sacred ground, and it's yours. What can you control right now? Your breath, your words, your habits, your choices, that's your domain. Beyond that, you let it go not because you don't care, but because caring about what you cannot change is a subtle form of self-destruction. The Stoics practiced this daily. Epictetus reminded his students, "Some things are up to us and some things are not. That's the fork in the road." The undisciplined mind tries to control everything and ends up controlling nothing. The trained mind filters life into two buckets, mine and not mine, and pours its energy only into the first. In practical terms, this looks like asking yourself, what's within my reach right now? When life spins out, instead of screaming at traffic, you breathe and turn up your audiobook. Instead of obsessing over whether someone texts back, you return to your work. Instead of fearing what tomorrow brings, you sharpen today, and slowly you feel different. Not because life has gotten easier, but because you've stopped trying to wrestle with shadows. You've started building in your circle of influence instead. This is why Stoicism isn't passive. It doesn't say, accept everything. It says, accept the boundary, then act fiercely within it. And the more you train this mental muscle, the more unshakable you become. It becomes easier to say, that insult, not mine, that delay, not mine, that external chaos, still not mine, but this reaction, this next breath, this integrity, mine. Mine completely. Here's a reflection practice. Tonight, write down 5 things that bothered you. Then ask, which of these were within my control? If the answer is none, you know where your suffering came from. If even one was, you know where your power still lies. Marcus Aurelius didn't demand life be easier, he demanded that he become stronger. That's where your journey begins, not by fixing the world, but by mastering your inner domain. Not by changing others, but by sharpening your discipline. Control what you can, release what you can't, reclaim your peace. Law 2, train for discomfort before life forces it upon you. Most people live their lives avoiding discomfort like it's a disease. We smooth out every rough edge, temperature, emotions, conversations. If something's hard, we label it toxic. If something's boring, we abandon it. If something doesn't give us instant pleasure, we swipe past it. The result: a generation of people addicted to ease, yet haunted by anxiety, safe on the outside but fragile on the inside. Stoicism offers a radically different path, one that may bruise the ego but builds the soul. Seneca said it plainly. Set aside now and then a number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, "Is this the condition I feared?" That wasn't theory, that was training. He was a wealthy man, an advisor to emperors, yet he regularly slept on the floor, ate stale bread, wore worn clothes, not because he needed to, but because one day he might. And if that day came, he wanted to be ready, not just physically, but psychologically. Modern trauma research supports this. Dr. Kelly McGonigal, in her work on stress and resilience, explains that voluntary exposure to stress in controlled, safe environments actually makes us stronger. It reshapes the brain, increases neuroplasticity, reduces fear reactivity. In short, discomfort is not your enemy, it's your gym. Think of David Goggins, a former Navy SEAL and ultramarathon runner. His life was built not on comfort, but the opposite. He became famous for choosing pain, long runs in the heat, ice baths, brutal workouts at dawn. People think he's extreme, but he's just living the Stoic law. He knows that the body can endure more than the mind believes. And when you teach the mind not to flinch, you awaken something dangerous inside you, calm power. Ask yourself, what small comfort are you clinging to right now? The extra hour in bed, the junk food after stress, the endless scrolling to avoid silence. What if you reverse the equation? What if instead of comfort making you feel safe, it's what's keeping you stuck? Discomfort reveals who you are when the mask falls off, and even more, who you could become if you stop running from it. Start small, take a cold shower, skip a meal once a week to feel hunger without panic. Have the conversation you've been putting off, turn your phone off for 3 hours and sit with your own thoughts. These aren't punishments, they're practice. They're reminders that your body is capable, that your mind is stronger than you've been told. And that the world, with all its chaos, cannot break someone who has chosen to face small pain daily. The Stoics didn't believe in shock therapy. They believed in preparation. In building what the Roman army called disciplina, a soul forged not by theory, but by doing hard things often and on purpose. And here's the paradox: the more you choose discomfort intentionally, the less life can catch you off guard. You stop fearing betrayal because you've sat with solitude. You stop panicking at loss because you've practiced letting go. You stop craving applause because you've faced the silence and found it doesn't kill you. The untrained mind breaks the first time life says no. The trained mind, it nods, says, "I've been here before," and keeps walking. So ask yourself this, not how can I make my life easier, but how can I become stronger? Today, pick one discomfort, just one, not for the result, but for the resistance. And remember, comfort is forgettable, struggle is transformational. You don't need to wait for life to force your growth. Choose it, face it, invite it. Because the fire you walk into by choice, that's the one that doesn't burn, you come out forged. Law 3, detach from outcomes, fall in love with the process. You've been conditioned your entire life to chase outcomes. The grade, the job, the body, the applause, and each time you reach one, there's a fleeting high, but then the emptiness. A quiet now what? You assume the solution is a bigger goal, a louder achievement, but the truth, you've built your identity on results, not roots, on the scoreboard, not the effort, and that, the Stoics warn us, is where fragility begins. Stoicism challenges this mindset at the core. It tells you, detach from the fruits, devote yourself to the labor. Epictetus taught this through a deceptively simple principle: freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. and what lies beyond our control more than outcome. You can write the best book and it still might not sell. You can give love fully and still be left. You can train every day and still lose the match. So what then? Is it all wasted? No, not if you understand the deeper Stoic truth. The process is your home. The action is your anchor. You are not your result. You are your intention, your discipline, your integrity in the face of uncertainty. Let's ground this in a real-world example. Serena Williams. Her tennis career wasn't built on a single win, though she has 23 Grand Slam titles. It was built on thousands of hours on courts where no one was watching. Early mornings, repeated drills, failure after failure. The greatness didn't come from her trophies. It came from the days she showed up without knowing whether she'd win or not. That's Stoic. When you love the process, you stop being hostage to the outcome. You write the book to become clearer, not to be praised. You start the business to solve problems, not to be admired. You work out to embody discipline, not to be admired for abs. And ironically, when you let go of the need for success, you often find it, because now you're not desperate, you're not swinging for validation, you're steady, calm, focused. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, never let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. In other words, don't chase shadows. Sharpen your blade today. The battle will come. Your readiness is all that matters. In psychological terms, this is supported by what's known as intrinsic motivation, the drive that comes from internal meaning, not external reward. Studies show that those who are process-oriented perform better, stay longer, and experience less emotional burnout than those who focus only on outcomes. So ask yourself, what are you working toward right now? Can you shift your mindset from I must achieve this to I must become someone who does this daily with care, with pride? Here's a challenge. Take one goal you've been clinging to, success, love, healing, and write it down. Then underneath it, list the daily process that leads there. Tape that second part to your wall. Forget the goal for now. Fall in love with what it takes to become the kind of person who earns it. Because when you root yourself in process, you grow regardless of whether the world rewards you. You stay grounded when results delay, and you walk taller, knowing that your worth wasn't built on applause, but on persistence. Detaching from outcome isn't giving up, it's leveling up. It's stepping out of the anxious, scarcity-driven loop of am I enough, and stepping into I am becoming. And becoming never ends. Choose the process, trust the path, respect the craft. And the outcome, let it arrive or not. Either way, you've already won. Law 4, don't be owned by your emotions, command the storm within. You've been taught that emotions are natural, spontaneous, even sacred, and that's partly true. But the Stoics would ask, what happens when those emotions start owning you? When they hijack your reason, your values, your dignity. Anger lashes out and burns bridges you later regret. Fear shrinks your courage when opportunity knocks. Sadness pulls you into paralysis and self-pity. Pleasure tempts you into indulgence that later feels hollow. The Stoics never taught you to suppress your emotions, but to master them. To stand like a lighthouse in a storm, illuminated, rooted, unshaken. Epictetus, a man born a slave who rose to become one of the greatest philosophers of his age, said it plainly. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. Just pause with that for a second. The rude stranger, the critic online, the cold silence of someone you love. If they can control your emotional state, you've given away your sovereignty. And that to the Stoic is unacceptable. The heart of this law is emotional responsibility. Not because you're heartless, but because you value clarity more than chaos. Marcus Aurelius, in the middle of governing wars, death, and betrayal, wrote in his Meditations, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Modern psychology echoes this. Dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, teaches distress tolerance. the ability to sit with intense emotion without letting it override your values. It's not about repression, it's about reframing. Recentering, responding, not reacting. Let's look at someone who embodied this in our modern world, Nelson Mandela. After 27 years in prison, he emerged not bitter, not vengeful, but with a calm sense of purpose. He could have let rage rule him. He had every reason to, but instead he chose forgiveness, not for his oppressor's sake, but for his own. Because he understood that rage is a cage, and peace is a power move. That's Stoicism in action. You will be angry, you will feel grief. You will know jealousy, resentment, envy, desire. That's not weakness. That's being human, but the strength lies in what you do next. Do you lash out or line in and observe? Do you spiral or breathe through it, right through it, walk through it? The Stoics gave us tools. Pause before response. Ask, is this emotion useful or just loud? Visualize the emotion as weather. It will pass. Write it out. See it clearly, defang it. A practical exercise. The next time you're emotionally triggered, don't post, don't reply, don't flee. Sit down, breathe for 2 minutes. Then write, what do I wish to do, and what would my highest self do? You'll be surprised how often that gap reveals the truth. It's not that Stoics lack feeling. It's that they refuse to be puppets to those feelings. You've likely met someone who always seems calm, who doesn't flinch when criticized, who doesn't snap when pressured. That's not apathy, that's emotional maturity. That's what Stoicism trains into you. And the beautiful part, this isn't a personality trait, it's a skill. You can practice it. You can rewire your emotional defaults. You can become the kind of person who isn't easily shaken, even when your world is. You can still cry and keep your dignity. You can feel rage and choose stillness. You can feel fear and act anyway, because the goal isn't to become numb. It's to become disciplined, to feel fully yet remain in control. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes you trustworthy. That's what makes you a Stoic, not someone who's cold, but someone who's calm when it counts. So from now on, when the storm rises in your chest, you don't run, you stand, you feel, you choose. Because you are not your emotion, you are its commander. Law 5, let go of fairness. Live with radical responsibility. It stings, doesn't it? You worked harder than they did, but they got the promotion. You loved more deeply, but they walked away. You played by the rules, yet life punished you anyway. Somewhere deep down, we all carry this unspoken belief that life should be fair, that effort guarantees reward, that kindness protects us from betrayal, that good people win in the end. But the Stoics didn't just reject this myth, they saw it as dangerous. Marcus Aurelius ruled a crumbling empire, facing betrayal, war, famine, and the death of his own children. Yet in his meditations, he never once wrote, "This isn't fair." Instead, he wrote, "You can commit injustice by doing nothing." To the Stoics, fairness is not a birthright, it's a hope. A beautiful one, yes, but not a law of nature. And clinging to it too tightly weakens you. Hear why. When you believe that life should reward you justly, every setback becomes a personal insult. Every loss feels like a theft. You rage not only at the event, but at the very structure of reality. That's a quick path to bitterness and a slow death of your power. Instead, Stoicism invites a shift so sharp, so radical, that it redefines your entire relationship to pain and injustice. You are not responsible for what happens, but you are always responsible for what you do with it. Let's ground this in the story of Malala Yousafzai. She was shot in the head by extremists simply for wanting an education. That's not just unfair, it's horrifying. But when she recovered, she didn't waste her life seeking revenge or cursing the world's injustice. She spoke, she organized, she advocated. She transformed a personal tragedy into a global movement. She chose radical responsibility, not because it was her fault, but because it was her power. This is the Stoic way. Seneca said, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. Especially when life is unfair, especially when the good suffer, especially when you do everything right and still lose. Radical responsibility doesn't mean you blame yourself for what's outside your control. It means you own your response so completely that nothing, no betrayal, no loss, no injustice can define your identity or steal your action. It's a high bar, but it's the only one that makes you unbreakable. Here's a simple but sobering exercise. Think of something deeply unfair that happened to you. Now ask, what is still within my control right now? That small, quiet answer, that's your path, that's your weapon. That's where the Stoic builds their strength. Modern psychology supports this. Dr. Martin Seligman, one of the fathers of positive psychology, found that the most resilient people in the world don't deny suffering, but they don't make it personal, permanent, or pervasive. They face it, learn from it, move forward anyway. The Stoic doesn't expect the world to reward them for their virtue. They act virtuously because that's who they are, not because it'll pay off, but because it's the right thing to do. So when the world deals you injustice, pause, don't collapse, don't seek pity, don't spin your wheels wondering why good things happen to bad people. Instead, whisper the Stoic truth, this is life, this is mine, what will I do with it? Because once you stop demanding that life be fair, you start becoming dangerous, not cruel, not cynical, but clear, grounded, focused on what can be done rather than lost in what should have been. Let others wait for fairness. You will build resilience, let others complain. You will act, let others be broken by betrayal. You will rise not because you deserve the pain, but because you refuse to let it define you. And in that, you become untouchable. Law 6. Focus only on what you control, let the rest burn. Take a moment and ask yourself, what's keeping you up at night? Is it the fear of losing something, the anxiety of what people think, the dread of a future you can't predict? If you dig deep enough, you'll find that most of your mental suffering isn't caused by events. It's caused by your attachment to control over things you never truly owned. This is where Stoicism delivers one of its most liberating and terrifying truths. You control far less than you think, but far more than you need. Epictetus, who had every reason to resent fate, wrote, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." He didn't say this in comfort, he said it in chains, and still he found freedom. The Stoics call this the dichotomy of control. What is up to me? My thoughts. My actions, my values, my responses. What is not up to me? Other people's choices, the past, the weather, the economy, death. So why then do we spend 90% of our energy trying to change the uncontrollable? Because letting go feels like weakness, like giving up, but it's not. It's clarity, it's strategy, it's power sharpened by focus. Let's bring in a modern example, Viktor Frankl. A psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, Frankl lost his family, his possessions, even his name, reduced to a number in a death camp. But he wrote something that echoes straight from the Stoic heart. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Frankl couldn't control the Nazis, but he could control how he responded to their cruelty. He held on to meaning, and through that he survived, that Stoic fire. And you have access to that same power every single day. Let go of controlling how people see you. Focus on how you show up. Let go of controlling your partner's emotions. Focus on how you love with clarity and respect. Let go of obsessing over market crashes. Focus on how you learn, adapt, and prepare. Let go of needing your past to be different. Focus on what you choose today. This mental discipline isn't easy. It takes practice. Start with this exercise. The next time you're stressed, write down everything you're worried about. Then draw 2 columns, on the left within my control, on the right out of my control. Burn the second column literally if you need to. Then act on the first. It's not denial, it's not apathy, it's agency. The kind that allows you to move forward while others freeze in fear. When you live this principle, people notice. You become centered when others are chaotic, clear when others are reactive. Calm not because the storm isn't real, but because you've stopped trying to control the wind and started steering the ship. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength, and the world will keep testing you. You'll still feel disappointment, but you'll stop being shocked by it, because you'll know that the universe never promised you outcomes, it only promised you the freedom to choose your posture in every moment. This isn't passivity, it's preparation, it's freedom by focus. And the truth is, once you stop trying to control everything, you start mastering what matters, so let the rest burn. Let go of the illusion, pick up what's yours. Your thoughts, your words, your conduct, that's enough, that's everything. Law 7, practice voluntary hardship, train before the storm hits. We live in an age addicted to comfort. Your chair is ergonomic, your coffee arrives in minutes. Your algorithm knows your next craving before you do, but what happens when real adversity strikes, when the storm hits and there's no comfort to run to? The Stoics had an answer for this, and it was brutal, brilliant, and essential. Train yourself with voluntary hardship before life forces it on you. Seneca didn't just write about Stoicism from a marble villa. He practiced it, regularly sleeping on the floor, eating the blandest food, wearing rough clothes. Why? To harden his mind, to prove to himself that he could endure loss, rejection, hunger, loneliness. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition I feared?' That's not masochism, that's mastery, because when you choose discomfort, you are no longer its slave. You transform fear into familiarity, and what once seemed impossible, suffering, failure, isolation, becomes something you've already walked through on your own terms." Let's zoom in on a modern example, David Goggins. A former Navy SEAL and ultra-endurance athlete, Goggins speaks openly about how he rewired his mind by intentionally seeking out pain. He'd run for miles in freezing rain, do hundreds of push-ups on fractured feet, sit alone for hours in complete stillness, not because he enjoyed suffering, but because he understood a timeless truth. When life hits hard, comfort is not your friend, discipline is. The Stoics weren't interested in motivation, they trained for reality. Today, most people avoid hardship at all costs, skip the gym because it's raining, binge another show to numb the stress, scroll endlessly to avoid silence. But this comfort comes at a price, fragility, because when you avoid small struggles, life's bigger ones destroy you. So what does voluntary hardship look like for you? Take a cold shower tomorrow morning. Fast for 16 or 24 hours and notice the cravings. Say no to that luxury you don't need. Wake up at 5 a.m. and write. Sit in silence for 30 minutes without checking your phone. These aren't punishments. They're preparations, because the world is uncertain. You will face illness, betrayal, loss, chaos. And when that day comes, you'll thank yourself for the mornings you practiced hardship when the stakes were low. Think about it this way. The gym trains your body to lift weight before you have to lift something in real life. Stoic practice trains your mind to endure pain before life demands it of you. There's a hidden joy in hardship chosen freely. It reminds you of your strength. It peels back the layers of comfort and reveals who you really are when ease is gone. When you fast, not because you have to, but because you choose to, you break the illusion that you're at the mercy of cravings. When you say no to indulgence, you discover that you are enough without it. When you walk alone in silence, you realize you are not lonely, you are simply with yourself, unfiltered. The world is raising people who crumble at offense, melt under pressure, collapse when things get hard. The Stoic trains to be the opposite, not insensitive, but indestructible. And that strength isn't inherited, it's built. Repetition by repetition, one chosen discomfort at a time. Remember, Marcus Aurelius ruled during plagues and war, not in peacetime. His clarity didn't emerge from luxury, but from facing hardship daily. He didn't ask, why is life so hard? He asked, what kind of person must I become to endure it with grace? And now that question belongs to you. Don't wait for life to force growth upon you. invite it, train for it, embrace it. Not to suffer, but to survive with soul intact, because hardship is coming whether you're ready or not. The Stoic just chooses to be ready. Law 8, live for virtue, not validation, because time is slipping. You won't get a standing ovation for doing the right thing. You won't trend for being honest when it costs you. You won't go viral for living with integrity. And yet the Stoics taught this is the only life worth living. They didn't wake up to chase likes, applause, or status. They rose to face the day with clarity, discipline, and virtue, whether the crowd noticed or not. Marcus Aurelius said it plainly, just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. And in a world obsessed with external validation, that's not just radical, it's revolutionary. Seneca took it further. I will govern my life and thoughts as if the entire world were watching. Not because he wanted attention, but because he knew the truth. Your character is the only audience that matters in the end. When you pursue praise, you become a puppet. When you pursue virtue, you become free. And here's the twist, it won't feel glamorous. Living this way, it will feel quiet, unseen, even lonely. But it's the only path that makes you mentally unbreakable. Now combine this with what the Stoics called memento mori, remember you must die. Because when you deeply understand how limited your time is, you stop trading your soul for approval. You stop tolerating your own mediocrity. You stop performing and you start living. Think of someone like Chadwick Boseman. At the peak of his career, he battled terminal cancer in silence. No public outbursts, no pity campaigns, just art, discipline, grace. He lived with urgency but not panic, with intention but not ego. He embodied what the Stoics meant, to act with integrity, regardless of applause. And when he passed, the world was stunned, not just by the loss, but by the strength he modeled in silence. This is the kind of power you hold when you live from the inside out. So ask yourself, are you living to be seen or to be solid? Are you crafting your image or cultivating your soul? The crowd's approval will fade, the algorithm will move on. But your inner self, your will, your courage, your truth, that's what you carry to the end. The Stoic walks alone not because they reject others, but because they walk a path too deep to be mapped by surface metrics. And when you walk this way, you don't need to shout. Your presence speaks, your integrity leads, your steadiness in chaos becomes the message. So here's your call to action. Live like your time is short, because it is. Speak truth even if your voice shakes. Choose discomfort when it strengthens your core. Detach from outcomes, focus on effort. And when the crowd cheers or jeers, stand unmoved. Because you've chosen virtue over vanity, depth over attention. A soul that stands tall even in silence. This is what it means to walk the Stoic path, not to be perfect, but to be principled, not to dominate others, but to master yourself, not to impress, but to embody. So if you've made it this far, it means something in you is ready, not for easy change, but for real transformation. You're not just consuming Stoic ideas, you're living them, you're choosing them, you're becoming them. And in a world chasing noise, you're building something quiet and unshakable. Remember, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Now it's your move. Drop a comment below. Which of the 8 laws hit you hardest today? Then share this with someone walking through fire who needs a reminder of their inner power. This is Unshakable Calm, where the world shakes and you do not.